Welcome back to the Big Bang Theory podcast. I am your host, Jessica Radloff, and I am so thrilled to have one of our favorites again return to the podcast today. He is writer, co-executive producer, and later executive producer, the very talented Dave Goetsch. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be back.
It's so wonderful to have you back. This is the fourth episode of the series, The Luminous Fish Effect. It aired on October 15th, 2007. Mark Sandrowski directed. The logline is that Sheldon is fired from his job, which makes him dive into all of his obsessions. As a result, Leonard decides the only person who can help is his mother, Mary Cooper, in what is Laurie Metcalf's first appearance on the show. And who knew that this would start off the fact that Laurie would play this role through the 12 seasons, and then her daughter would eventually take over as Mary Cooper for young Sheldon. I mean, you can't have scripted it any better, but
isn't it incredible?
It's so nuts.
Not just the fourth episode. That's the third one we shot, right? The pilot's already done.
Right, the pilot's done.
So it's like, I think we did a block of 3 in August.
Okay.
And so it was the last one of the block of 3. It was just so early.
And tell me if I'm right or if I'm mistaken here, but I heard that Zoe Perry, who's Laurie's daughter, who would then play Mary on Young Sheldon, actually was an assistant to Mary T. Quigley, the costume designer, on the early days of Big Bang.
Totally. I remember her all the time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is crazy.
It's totally crazy. And then Mary obviously knew Laurie from Roseanne.
Right.
And so they had this like big, deep connection. And then Johnny obviously also.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, we have a lot to talk about with this episode. And it was so major for so many reasons, which I didn't realize until I watched it back on Max, because of course we first meet Sheldon's mom, Mary. We also learn in this episode that Sheldon has a brother who Mary calls dumb as soup. She calls the brother and Missy, the sister, dumb as soup, which I thought was hysterical. We also find out that Sheldon's dad died when he was younger. And we also meet Dr. Gabelhauser for the first time. So a lot happened in this episode that was monumental to the series as a whole.
Right. This like giant canon setting things are all joke based. They're all just like because of the soup joke or because whatever.
Right.
You know, like there's no thought to we're building out the universe of the Big Bang Theory.
I know, but it is. That's the thing that's so wild about this episode, is because so many things that happened that you guys created ended up making their way into Young Sheldon or just later on season 12 of Big Bang. And it's like, my God, like, I know you guys didn't know this at the time, but it's amazing.
It's crazy.
It's really crazy. I also, did you go back? So you watched the episode?
I did.
What was that like for you to revisit this?
Well, it's so fun. It's amazing to see these episodes. It's nice to just see two that you haven't seen in a long time, as opposed to let's watch all 273 of them.
Can you imagine if that was the protocol for coming on the podcast today? Like all 279, and then you can come in.
We're going to be able to ask you back and forth questions.
Yes.
Yeah. And so one thing is I thought back to that time. We started in, those are the old days of having upfronts and the season announced. And so we started the writing staff in June, and we were in that little house, which is on the part of Warner Brothers lot, which used to be the Westerns, but is now a neighborhood. And it was so surreal because you'd pull up and you'd walk into this. There was literally a white picket fence, and you'd walk through and open the door.
Yes, because you guys weren't on the lot yet. Yeah. Really, it was a different. It was a different.
We
part
weren't
of Warner Brothers.
on the big building. Yeah, exactly. And so
shame on Warner Brothers. They didn't know what they were dealing with.
Yes, and then Chuck was over in the big building. He was in the Friends at that year. 2.5 Men was, I don't know where 2.5 Men was. It was like, I think it was in the tower.
Okay.
So it was hard to get Chuck to come over because you'd actually like drive a car to like get around. So you're on this new show. You don't know what's going to happen. You're hanging out with the writers, and it was so. It felt like after school hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
And then David Litt he had co-created King of Queens.
Okay.
And so he was looking around at this neighborhood and was like, we should get a helicopter. And so he bought a really expensive, have you heard the story?
No.
So he buys this really expensive remote control helicopter.
Okay.
And so this is like probably when we're writing this episode in the summer during pre-production. So Rob Cohen, who his face is Milhouse, that's what he was a PA on The Simpsons when they did that. So if you ever meet him, he looks like Milhouse. So I'm standing in this and Malaro's there, and I think the other writers, and Lit is so excited, and he gets his remote control. He's never used it before. He turns it on and he hits it hard, and the helicopter zooms straight up into the sky and disappears.
No.
We have no idea where it is.
To this day?
To this day. And this, we're like running around. And then there are those woods that are part of the lot where we shot some of the scenes that like paintball and stuff like that. So we went to the woods and looked for it, and I was like, this. And then we just kind of fell down laughing because this is just so hilarious. So that was one of the things that I thought about when we're watching this episode, because it was just all the other stuff that was going on behind the scenes.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I'm waiting for this helicopter to one day just drop out of the sky.
Probably. Yeah, exactly. There's going to be some time portal or something.
Oh my God. How much did this thing cost? Do you even know?
Hundreds of dollars. I think it was really because
David.
Because he had created King of Queens. That wasn't a factor for him.
Right, of course. But oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
What if Chuck just found it and just like threw it away? I could imagine Chuck doing that, like one day finding like, what the hell is this? And then just like,
exactly.
tossing it in the dumpster.
Guys, get back to work,
That is amazing. Oh my God, I love that so much. Something else I'm curious if you noticed when you were watching this episode, Johnny's hair, very voluminous in a way that I don't remember from other seasons. Did you pick up on this at all? Or was this just me and my glamour background being like, the hair looks a little different in these episodes?
It is a little different.
Yeah.
But I can't remember why. And I feel like those actors had more autonomy, kind of like with the exception of when Kaylee
had more hair than in the early days.
Yeah, exactly. But I think they were just kind of doing what they wanted to do.
Yeah, we also see Sheldon in shorts.
Yes,
which is kind of jarring because we'd never see him in. I think maybe one other time we saw him in shorts.
It is one of those things. Mary Quigley did a great job of creating the world through clothes, and you see that from the beginning. And everything Wolowitz is wearing is totally consistent. But there's something, it's just so visual. It tells the story.
Yeah.
Like you get it. He's on vacation. This is what he thinks it is. He's wearing shorts.
It's so good. Some other notable things about this episode. We see a grocery store, which we're not used to seeing really in Big Bang World because we're normally on these, signature sets. So I think I remember Kaylee telling me that for the grocery store scene, her grandmother was in the audience that tape night. And then her grandmother came down to the set and went grocery shopping in that because it was real produce or something, and like ended up taking home a lot of produce from that scene, which I just thought, yeah, good for her. Why not?
Totally. I've done that. And it's nice on when there's a set where there are flowers.
Oh, yeah.
That's really a dream.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would do the same thing.
We used to do sometimes in scripts, we would write, because Scott London would make the food.
Yes.
So we would write in like, there are a plate of brownies, parentheses, with half nuts, half no nuts. And then he would make amazing brownies.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I remember once when I was there for the 200th episode and there were all these birthday cakes backstage for Sheldon, and they had to have numerous ones because, who knows, you might need an extra birthday cake. Maybe something happens to one. And I just was so struck by the preparation that went in to all these extras that nobody would ever see when they watch the show because they just see one of it. But then backstage, there'd be all these extras of things that you're like, wow.
They had to be prepared, right? Like
1,000%.
If somebody was like, hey, do you have a this? The answer is yes.
Yes, totally. Something else that I thought was so interesting about this episode is that Sheldon talks about Penny's menstrual cycle. Let's go ahead and listen to that clip first.
Well, that was fun. Maybe tomorrow we can go to one of those big warehouse stores.
Oh, I don't know, Sheldon. It's going to take me a while to recover from all the fun I had today.
Are you sure? There are a lot of advantages to buying in bulk. For example, I noticed that you purchase your tampons 1 month's supply at a time.
1 month's supply? What do you mean? 1 month's supply? 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 1 month's supply?
about it. It's a product that doesn't spoil, and you're going to be needing them for at least the next 30 years.
You want me to buy 30 years worth of tampons?
Well, 30, 35. Hey, when did your mother go into menopause?
Okay. I'm not talking about this with you.
Oh, Penny, this is a natural human process, and we're talking about statistically significant savings. Now, if you assume 15 tampons per cycle and a 28-day cycle, are you fairly regular? Okay, no warehouse store, but we're still on for putt-putt golf, right?
I love the way that Sheldon so scientifically and normally, if that's really a word, but he normalizes conversations about having your period, going through menopause, like in a way that we hadn't seen on TV before. And I don't want to make you uncomfortable at all, but I also feel like it's so nice to see these conversations play out because this was a character that it didn't bother him. And that's what we need to see more of, is normalizing certain conversations. And I just got the biggest kick out of that in that episode.
Yes, and I had forgotten that he suggests buying a year's supply.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's also logical to him. And there's something that there's this term among writers will say, like, what's your axe? Like, why is that character funny?
Okay.
And obviously each of these characters has like so many different axes, but just him being logical in an illogical world is such a great way to tap into comedy, and Jim's delivery is like what makes it fly.
Right,
you know?
Totally. But it was also so interesting because there weren't a lot of female writers in the writer's room in the earlier seasons. So I just thought it was so interesting, like a group of guys that had this in the script, and I'm like, it's nice to see a character on TV talking about something that's so normal for half the population, but in a way we hadn't seen before. So kudos from a woman to you guys for actually talking about this so openly with the Sheldon character.
Yes, and we had Jen Glickman for 2 seasons,
yes.
And she's wonderful, terrific writer, and her goal really was like, how do we make these, how do we make these characters more three-dimensional, women, and particularly talk about it. And so she was a terrific force on the show.
So much so. Okay, so the first scene that we get with Mary Cooper is when she is walking up the stairs with Leonard. And I was curious, was that done on purpose just to have that reunion between Laurie and Johnny from Roseanne? Or am I thinking way too much into this?
Well, since this was 17 years ago, I have no idea. But
Okay.
Let's just say yes.
Fair. Yes.
Let's say yes, because it's such a great picture.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, on a story level, what it's achieving is telling the audience who this person is and who they're having fun. And that was the wonderful setup of having those stairs, is you could create your own little like mini scene.
Yes.
You don't have to have a whole scene.
Right.
But you could do a page to get jokes in, set the stage for what's about to happen next, and really set points of view. So, that worked out well. But I wouldn't be surprised if, Chuck and Bill were thinking about that.
Yeah. So later, Mary is telling a story about Sheldon, or Shelley, as she calls him, to Penny, Leonard, Raj, and Howard. And it's a story that we would later see play out on young Sheldon. What was it like coming up with Sheldon's backstory? Had you guys kind of come up with that before this episode, or did you really, I know it's so long ago, but what do you remember from that?
I think that the Texas part of it came from Jim's background and his lilt and his accent, and also being so that there's a contrast and a difference from that. But I feel like my memory is that it would just build kind of joke by joke. If you do like being chased by chickens or whatever it is.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't trying to build out the canon. And so I think the cool thing about that is you just tell a story. Like one of the things that I love about The Big Bang Theory is a lot of it is people talking and they're telling stories and they're reacting about it. And it makes this feeling of like, oh, I'm hanging out with them.
Right.
And I think that contributes to what the show's popularity. But it speaks to, in my mind, Chuck shows, he hadn't articulated this, but working with him for 15 years, I always thought that it was character comes first. and then the jokes that come from the character, and then the plot. And so telling stories like this are an amazing way to get character to come across.
It's why I always tell people who, if they say to me they haven't watched The Big Bang Theory, and they're like, can I jump right in? And I'm kind of like, you should really go back and watch it from the beginning, because that's where the humor comes from, is understanding these characters. And it's what makes it so funny. So sure, you can jump right in if you want to, you might love it, but there's going to be so much that you overlook and you miss because it's such character-driven humor.
Yes, and there are these little connection points.
Yeah.
And that the Steves continued into young Sheldon amazingly, right?
Yes.
Like that, the chance, it's like building a house without a plan. And so you're just like going up and up and up, which is super impressive.
We're going to get a skyscraper by the time that this franchise is done. I mean, who would have thought, back in 2006 when the first pilot, was filmed, that they'd be on the third incarnation of this universe in a way. So yeah, let's see where they can keep taking it.
My embarrassing story is that during this first season, which included a strike, and the strike was about the internet and what's going to change, and syndication was dead and all this stuff. And I remember telling Bill Prady, the show's great, it's awesome, syndication's over, you're not going to make a lot of money, nothing's going to happen, so let's just enjoy it. Really, like the worst advice. It's absolutely not true. Totally everything else happened.
Right.
Which I use today when I think about, wait a second, what's happening? It seems like TV's dead.
Right.
We're not coming back from the strike. What's going on?
Yep.
And it's just a reminder, we have no idea what's going to happen. Let's be optimistic, and some good stuff is going to happen.
Yes, so true. Listen, at least there was nowhere to go but up after you told him that.
Totally.
And way up it went.
That was my version of a pep-up story. It was like, let's just have fun.
Before that, when she first enters the apartment, I think she sees Sheldon playing a loom.
Yes.
Tell us a story about how that came to be.
So this is like etched in my memory because I think I pitched the loom, and later people hated it, and that it was like too big and too broad, and I always felt badly about it. But having just watched it again, I think it's pretty funny. So this podcast has some real healing for me. Good. Because in the writer's room later, we would say things like, not like a loom, because it would be like, that would be like too, because it's like, is it too crazy? But I think one of the things that went into that decision is that we're jumping ahead 3 weeks. Yeah. And so it's like, how can you demonstrate that he's gone through a bunch of things and is now doing, this terminal kind of crazy thing. Yes. So that's how we came to loom. And I do like the pun of loom and luminescence. And I didn't even pick up on that, but now that you mentioned it. Later in the show when he was like, I was thinking luminescence and loom. And so it held up better than I thought. It worked well. No, oh my God, what was it like getting all these props for this episode between the loom and then the goldfish? Like, was Scott London in charge of getting the goldfish? They have these like specific rules about what everyone does, but I think all of that stuff was props, so it fell to him. And then there's a effect that's done at the end, so that there was like, I think I remember we would always have a pre-production meeting, which would talk about what you need to do in each scene and whatever. Right. And so then you'd have to bring in like technical people. And so when we shot that last scene, the fishbowl obviously wasn't glowing or anything like that. And that was all done. Don't ruin it for us. Yes, we want to think that it was really glowing at the end. But it looks great, and it looks great for 2007 effects. It really does. It's not like Star Trek. You don't have to go back and fix it. I love that. Well, later, when Sheldon is trying to get his job back, Mary goes with him to Caltech, and she meets Dr. Gablehauser, where Mary and Dr. Gablehauser totally hit it off because they want alone time. So basically, Sheldon gets his job back super quickly, which he can't believe. They usher him out. I love when Mary is like, his father's dead. And then Dr. Gablehauser is like, how long? Or what did he say? She says long enough. Long enough. It's so good. It's so funny. And I've always admired how Chuck shows concentrate on the main cast. And we did that so much. We didn't have many outside characters. And that's just because you've got screen time. You want to make the audience fall in love with these characters. And here we are in the 4th episode. And Mary's a really big character. She probably has like as many lines as anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I don't know the whole Laurie canon, but it's like special and rare. And one of the things that it achieves so well is that we're learning so much about Sheldon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like she's just an amazing foil to give all this backstory. Because if you're watching the show, like, who is this guy? I've seen the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
He seems impossible. Is he a jerk? Is it, you know, where's the softness?
Right.
And you see with his mother and backstory that just fills in, and like how vulnerable he is. I think it does a great job of helping the audience have more reasons to fall in love.
Yeah. Well, I love that whole scene because I love the Mary Dr. Gabelhauser dialogue, but also I just found it so poignant when I was watching the episode back about how Sheldon is self-aware enough to tell Leonard that what he just witnessed, which was a flirtation between the two, is something that he has never really been able to relate to or understand. Because, again, this was a character, and you probably know it better than anybody, having come from Third Rock from the Sun, that someone that felt like they didn't fit in with societal norms as they were supposed to. And Sheldon witnessing this interaction was really kind of foreign to him. Is that why you think he also connected so well with audiences? It's because it was an untapped community that felt like, I don't know how to act. I don't know what to do with that. It's foreign to me. No one's taught me. And now we're seeing it play out on screen.
I think so. And also that it gives the most runway possible.
Yeah.
That he's not going to fall in love for years and years and years. And we even in the writer's room, some people thought he should never fall in love. He should never date. He would never I think there was this prevailing feeling at this time that Sheldon couldn't change.
Right.
People like this don't change. And so I think this show demonstrates or tells the parable of how they do, but it's slowly.
Yes.
And it's bumpy, and that's the joy of the show. But that is something that for a character who's kind of so vibrant and big feels real.
Yeah, so true. At the end, I love the scene where Sheldon is in bed and Mary says goodnight to him. And then Sheldon asks his mom if Dr. Gabelhauser is going to be his new daddy, which is just, it's so innocent coming from Sheldon. Do you remember anything about you guys just crafting that line or that scene in particular? Because it's so sweet, but it's also so funny to end on that note.
Yes, I think that I don't remember the exact details.
Very fair.
I don't remember the exact details of it. But the thing that's striking to me about that ending is, again, the kind of like character jokes plot. Like there isn't a giant resolution. There's a flirt that does it, and it's emotionally driven, right? So it's like Sheldon's in this jam, and now he's in another jam. And Chuck often will say, you know, writing a script is you try to throw rocks at a character as they go up a tree and keep, you know, just try to give them more and more of a problem, more and more of a dilemma. And now he has a new problem as he goes out to this. So I think that's great. And at that moment, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
We didn't know if we were going to see Mary again.
Yeah.
Like that's the first time we saw Gabelhauser. I remember the conversations about wanting, you know, an antagonist, and like later we actually would figure out antagonists, but it was more like John Ross Bowie.
Yep.
You know, we kind of were auditioning different actors and characters who like who could be that. But the combination of like Will Wheaton and Kripke were ideal antagonists for Sheldon.
Yes.
And our experiment here was like, oh, maybe it's not Gabelhauser, not because of the actor, but just like kind of having a boss. Like
totally.
Like Sheldon having a boss maybe isn't worth it.
Yes. No, that makes complete sense. Although I would have liked to have seen another episode with Dr. Gablehauser and Mary to see them try to date. I think that would have really been hysterical.
Totally.
Because again, the characters are so well developed that you kind of want to know, like, all right, how is this going to go? Because they're also so upfront with each other about everything, which is where so much of the humor lies.
And Laurie Metcalf is one of the greatest.
I mean, incredible.
One of the greatest, right? And she has so much theater experience from Chicago, but then from Roseanne. And so she would have this process in her. Could we do a table read on Wednesday? We do the studio run through on Thursday, Friday the network run through. So she would, this first time and every other time, she would kill it at the table.
Okay.
And then on Thursday, the next day, she would do like something totally different. And we'd be like, what's happening? And then on Friday, she'd be like a little bit different and whatever.
Okay.
And then at some point, we're like, guys, she's acting. That's what she's doing. Like, we come from a world of like, if you laugh, do it.
Right.
It's magic. Don't let it go. Don't change it. Don't change it. But she's so masterful that she wants to play with it.
Right.
Just like you would in a theater rehearsal. And like the joy of being able to see actors of that quality like up close.
Yeah.
My partners and I actually wrote an episode of Third Rock from the Sun with her and John Lithgow where they were flirting and fell in love. And we wrote it in iambic pentameter because she was an English major, or she was an English professor, and she was amazing. It's totally different from, like thinking, I remember watching her, loving her as Mary, and just being like, oh my God, this is so different from Roseanne. This is so different from when you were on Third Rock. Like, she is a treasure.
Oh my God. I love hearing those stories. That is so funny that she changed it up at each day and you're all like, wait a minute, what's going on here? I mean, and then you think the fact that you got Laurie Metcalf as Sheldon's mother, and then you have Christine Baranski as Leonard's mother. Like, the casting for the show was just absolutely
insane,
incredible.
And it's totally a tribute to Chuck for having
those relationships,
not just being as successful as he has been, but somebody who also, worked with those people and could count on them, and they knew that they could count on him.
1,000%. All right, you ready to play a game?
Let's go.
To test your Big Bang knowledge.
I lose already. I'm losing.
No, I don't think so. I think you're actually going to be real good at this, Dave. So I'm curious to see how you do. And I don't know. I've got faith. Okay, what is Sheldon's middle name?
I know this.
Okay, go.
Sheldon Lee Cooper.
Well done.
And the reson I know it is because I was looking up before this, like old emails, and there's an email from Jess Ambersetti, who was Bill Prady's assistant for the first couple of years, and I had asked, and it was like Sheldon Lee Cooper, and then Leonard. Oh shoot, I forget Sheldon Leonard.
I forget Leonard's middle name too.
But it's the homage of Sheldon Leonard from the creator of Gilligan's Island, and there's actually a Sheldon. Chuck's card at the end of this is about
Sheldon Leonard. Yes.
Yeah.
So did you come up with the Lee for Sheldon?
No. I think it had been decided along in the pilot.
Okay. Got it. I love that. What is the name of Sheldon's twin sister?
Missy.
Good job. You're 2 for 2. Where did Sheldon meet Amy?
Oh, shoot. Oh my gosh. I know the answer is like the last episode of season 5 or whatever.
Oh God, now I'm forgetting the last episode of season 3.
Season 3? Okay.
Yeah. Because then Mayim came on pretty regularly in season 4.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the cafeteria.
Okay, you're close. They met at a coffee shop.
Oh, it's the date. They had the date set up, and then they met at the coffee shop that Raj and Howard did.
Set up.
Yes, and I think they sat on the left.
Yeah. They did, and I think she ordered tepid water or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a half point for that one. Okay. What state did Penny live in before moving to Pasadena, California?
Okay. She lived in the Midwest and she's a Nebraska Cornhusker because there's a football episode where it's like go Nebraska.
Good job. And also because Lee Aronson, he had a comic book store in Omaha.
In Omaha, yes.
Yeah. You're doing good, Dave. What school did Howard attend?
I haven't thought about this so long. So it was always the inferior.
Right, because they made fun of him a lot.
Because they always made fun of him.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hate myself for not thinking about this. Oh, jeez.
I see all these episodes flashing through your eyes right
There's
now.
There's like too much data. Yeah, exactly.
I know.
What is it?
It's on the East Coast.
Is it an Ivy League school?
Yeah. I consider it.
Oh man, it's not Princeton, but
No.
I feel like I thought the joke was that it's a great school that's not a MIT.
Yes.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Way to go, Dave.
I'm sorry.
No.
I should have known that.
No, but you got
there.
it.
I got
you
there.
get the full point for that. Okay.
Okay.
What is the breed of Raj's dog, Cinnamon?
Oh, I'm not great with breeds, but I'm going to say a teacup poodle.
Okay, well, it's small like that, but it's a Yorkshire Terrier.
Yorkshire Terrier. Okay.
So
okay.
close.
Yes,
Do you have a dog at home?
I do. It's kind of a Schnauzer mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it was a Yorkshire Terrier, I was going to be like, Dave Goetsch, come on here. Okay. Which movie character is prominently featured on Sheldon's desk?
In his office or in his bedroom?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, in the living
apartment.
room.
Yeah, living
In the living
room.
room. Oh, man. This is like when Brady Malaro did this at Comic-Con and got crushed by fans.
Oh, gosh.
Shatner. It's not, but I don't know.
No, it's Gollum.
Gollum. Oh, is that a statue? There's a statue of Gollum. Yes. Right.
By the way,
Warner Brother property, which allowed us to do that. Because you could never, the comic book store, we could never have any Marvel anything.
Totally.
Yeah.
By the way, when Eric Kaplan comes on the podcast, I just so happened when I was looking up old episodes from the other night on Google, and there's a photo of you and Kaplan and somebody else at Comic-Con.
Jim Reynolds.
And Eric Kaplan is sitting there without his shirt on. And I don't know what for the life of me is happening in this, but I'm just like...
It brings me so much joy that if anyone looks me up on IMDb, they see me laughing at Eric Kaplan with his shirt off. And the reason why was that year, Eric had been looking at hacks. What are things you could do? And there on the internet, there was a way to take a shirt off with one hand in a flourish. And I don't know if Malaro challenged him or he did I don't remember what the circumstances were, but in front of 4,000 people at Hall H, he did it. And with a deadpan.
Only Kaplan. Only him.
It was amazing.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love that. Okay, last two questions here. What drink does Sheldon offer friends when they're upset?
Tea.
Good job. And finally, can you spell Koothrappali?
KOOTHRAPALLI.
It's that last part
One L?
that screws everybody up. It is two P's and
P's.
one L. But close.
And the thing is, in the script, we would just say Raj. So, yeah, exactly. And I'm embarrassed. Okay.
Don't be embarrassed because really not many people except Kunal can get that right. It's very, very hard. I know the two P's, the L, it really can just mess one up. And I always found it so funny that in the scripts or even when I would interview a lot of you guys over the years, everybody says Koothrappali. And it's like, that's the long version. Like, I'm like, isn't it so much easier just to say Raj and not, but they love saying Koothrappali. And I just always thought that was so funny.
It's right. It's true. It's like Wallowitz, Koothrappali.
Right. And I always say Raj and
Sheldon
Howard.
Leonard. Yeah, that's true. I think that they're just like in the writer's room, things get stuck in a certain way.
Yeah.
And so everyone keeps saying it like that.
Yeah. Listen, if it works,
right?
keep at it. You know, something was going right with this show. So you guys knew what you were doing. Anyway, it was such a pleasure to have you on for this episode. I'm so glad.
You.
One of the OGs, Dave Goetsch. Thank you so much. And we're going to welcome you back for season 2, I know. Talk about another episode there.
Exciting. Let's go.
Thank you. This podcast was produced by Warner Brothers Unscripted Television in partnership with Max.